you ready? Yeah, good morning, everybody. Bore da. I'd just like to welcome Councillor Anne Davies now to our meeting. Nice to have you, Anne.
Thank you, Chair.
So long.
Lovely to be here.
Oh, it's nice to have you. Thanks very much.
Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Hugh.
I've only had apologies from MRYS. There's no other apologies.
Chair?
Yes?
Chair, I've just had an email this minute. Remember to everyone, he's been allowed to sit up in bed and he hopes to be home from hospital tomorrow.
Is that from MRYS?
That's from MRYS, yes.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't hear the beginning of what you were saying. Well, we do wish him well. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any declarations of interest?
Jeanette?
Yes?
Jeanette, can you hear me? David?
Yes, I can hear you, David.
That's fine, as long as you know, there's no image coming up on my screen, but as long as you, yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody else there? I can't see. No. No declarations of interest. I've got no urgent matters. So we'll go to item 4, which is the minutes of the 17th of December. We'll go for accuracy first. So page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, and 11, and 12, and 13. Has anybody got any matters arising from page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13? No, I only have one on page 13. And that's that it didn't say, I wished you all a happy Christmas. All in favour of the true record, please, will you show? Thank you. Anybody against?
I'm not against, Chair, but it wasn't at the last meeting, so I can't really verify too much.
Okay. Yeah. We can go to item 5. Item 5. Have we got Tony here?
Yeah, you got 2 Tonys here. I'll kick off.
Tony Thomas, and have we got Andy Clark?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
He's filming, but
Brian, are you with us? Brian Jones?
I'm here, Chair, but on this occasion, because it falls into biodiversity, this next agenda item, Councillor Tony Thomas is the lead member on biodiversity, so I will graciously sit in the wings. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, welcome to you all. And who's going to start us off with this report?
Myself, please, Chair.
Okay, Tony?
Yeah. Coldest night of the year, apparently, last night, so it's a good one for the environment. So thanks for bringing us back to talk about the Council's policy on the verge, hedge maintenance and pesticide application. We were here, believe it or not, a year ago on the 13th of February. Verges have to be managed to ensure safety of all road users. However, we need to respect that verges are important for maintaining biodiversity. For example, benefits of bees, insects, and other forms of wildlife. DCC aims to address these wishes in a realistic and economic way. Appendix 2 sets out the DCC position on the use of pesticide for the purposes of weed control. The Council's policy on maintenance of highway verges supports the corporate priority to ensure the environment is both attractive and protected, and supporting communities, well-being and economic prosperity. That's my introduction, Chair. I'm sure we'll answer questions, and no doubt Tony will want to say something else as well, please.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chair. Can I just say a few words of introduction, Chair?
Yes.
I seem to be hearing myself on an echo as well, unfortunately. I'll try and carry on. Yeah, just to reiterate what Tony was saying, we've obviously brought this a year ago, but I think we brought it alongside a similar report from Natural Resources Wales, which is why I think we came to partnership scrutiny, because we were talking about whether our mutual policies were similar in nature and whether they complemented each other. So that was the discussion we had last time, and I think following that discussion, it was requested that we just come back and have a discussion around our policy. And as it says as Tony said, it was also requested, I think, via a different route, that we bring a report on our use of pesticides. So both of those policies are attached as appendixes to the report. There's also some additional information there. One appendix around the controls in relation to our use of pesticides and its application. So I mean, the report was requested by the committee. So I think all we wanted to do was bring the information and then enable members to have the discussion, and we're here to answer questions. So really want to just throw it open to the committee, if that's okay.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I have some questions, but first of all, has any of the members? No hands up? Okay. Sorry? Mary, yeah, he's not a member, but I'll bring him in a minute. I've got a few questions, Tony. What environmental impact study has been undertaken by Denbighshire to qualify the damage to biodiversity from bees to hedgehogs of the council's continued use of the chemicals?
Sorry, Chair, I've switched my video off because I seem to be having a few connection issues, so hopefully it will improve the audio quality. I think you were saying about what evaluation have we done on the impact of biodiversity from the use of pesticides? I think that was your question, Chair. We've done quite a lot of research into the use of pesticides, and I know Andy will probably want to come in and say more about this. But as you're aware, Chair, we've had a number of challenges over recent years about the use of pesticides, and so we've had to defend our position on this quite vigorously over the last couple of years. Which has been quite difficult because there are some, there are some very strong opinions out there about the use of pesticides, and I think some people would very much prefer if we didn't use them at all. And to be honest, that is also our position. We would rather not use pesticides in our endeavours to control the growth of weeds. In an ideal world, we wouldn't do that, but we do have a requirement to control the weeds. So what we need to do is to do that in a way that has the least impact on biodiversity and ecology, but also in a way that is practical. And we have looked at lots of different potential alternatives to the use of pesticides. We continue to do that on a regular basis because we review our procedures every year. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, there is no alternative to there is no practical and effective alternative to the use of pesticides for controlling weeds on an area as large as Denbighshire. We are using different methods in very specific areas of special interest, but it's very difficult to expand that approach across the entire network, across the whole county. It's just not feasible to do that currently, but that's not to say that will always be the case, and we'll continue to review that as different options become available. So what we have done is we've sought opinion from Welsh Government, and to make sure that what we do is deemed to be appropriate and in line with national policy. And we do keep a very close control on how pesticides are used within our county. So we have quite vigorous processes in place to make sure that it's applied properly in a way that won't be significantly detrimental to the environment. But I just want to bring Andy in to see if there's anything else that Andy wants to say about the environmental impact. I know that Andy and the team work very closely with Countryside Services and our biodiversity officers in regard to this. So Andy, I'll just hand over to you if that's okay.
Before Andy replies, I think you may be able to answer the next question for me, because it dovetails in, particularly as we've just had the floods. So I'm going to ask, what environmental impact assessment has Denbighshire made of the impact of biodiversity of homicide runoff through seepage and drainage into the local streams and ponds? Because it's been, it's been a nightmare for you all, I understand that, but I wondered whether or not you could say, is that a problem seeping into the ponds and streams? Andy?
Sorry, Chair, I wasn't sure if the question was aimed at me or Tony. Just
both of you really, but Andy, I thought you might, the two go together really, don't they?
Just in terms of your question about just to expand and reiterate on what Tony has said, we are working quite closely at the moment with a group called the Amenity Forum. It's a national group in relation to pesticides. Obviously, we are engaging with that group. The chair of that forum is actually the managing director of the company that we currently use for our weed spraying application. There was a recent consultation and we have responded on behalf of Denbighshire. And it's largely, as Tony has said at the moment, we are exploring other methods of pesticide application. We are working very closely with colleagues in Countryside Services to expand our approach to biodiversity. We currently have 21 pilot sites, and we're looking to extend that possibly to over 40 sites. They're a combination mainly of open space sites, but we are looking to expand into other areas across the county. So we are taking our approach to biodiversity very seriously. In terms of the actual grass cutting itself, obviously you've seen the report there. We've obviously adopted the 2 cuts per year approach to encourage biodiversity. The only exception to that really is there are occasions where we have to go into certain areas to cut areas on health and safety grounds. We haven't really had much feedback in terms of the drainage. Our main focus really has been on the use of pesticides and looking at alternatives. Obviously some of those alternatives are outlined in the appendices. I think it's Appendix 2. But we have looked at alternative methods. I think, as Tony's already said, it's very difficult to adopt a one-size-fits-all approach across the county. We are using alternative methods where we can in areas that are deemed suitable. But we haven't had, certainly I for one haven't had much dealings in terms of your second question, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Tony, have you anything to say about that?
Sorry, sorry, Chair, I was just on.
I'm just worried about the runoff of herbicides into the streams, particularly where all the floods.
I think the thing I would say about that is that the pesticide application the pesticides are used very sparingly in the process. For lots of reasons. I mean, but I guess the 2 primary reasons are because we're aware of the potential environmental damage that would be caused if we overused pesticides, but also they're very expensive. It's an expensive process, so neither ourselves or the contractor would have an interest in using more pesticide than was absolutely necessary in order to do the job. So it's used sparingly, and therefore I think the potential for runoff is therefore reduced, and that risk is minimized. Andy, I don't know if you've got anything more to say on that, because you're obviously you closer to the operation than me. And I know there's an Appendix B here that talks about which provides the method statement for application, but it's not sprayed around on it, with the hose pipe, is it? I think that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Just to expand on that, really, I think what we felt would be useful for members is to include the method statement in terms of how to provide further reassurance, I guess, really, to provide you with more information in terms of how that operation is done, and it also outlines the ingredients within the treatment that we're carrying out. So the actual levels of glyphosate are very, very small. So obviously that minimises the impact, the environmental impact across the county. And obviously different providers do use different active ingredients there to obviously carry out the treatments. But we are fairly clear at the moment that we're doing everything within our means to obviously reduce that impact.
You have to bear in mind as well, I mean, you've got farming problems as well, haven't we? I mean, Welsh Government are tightening up on these sort of incidents, and no doubt that will feed through to Denbighshire as we go on. But I came across an application at planning yesterday for a slurry for a farm in Llangollen area, that they're keeping that back over the winter, and it's easier to disperse it in the summer, for instance. So as I say, these incidences are at the moment are relatively out of our control, but I think over the next year or so we'll be getting into the farmers a lot more and trying to sort out these various instances. We've had some in the Clwyd, haven't we? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christine, you've got a question?
Hello, thank you, Chair. Good morning. What I need is clarification really on verge cuttings, particularly in rural areas. The verge cutting, you take in sort of a metre width, and then you leave the rest, but you do get sort of hedging like blackthorn creeping in, or is that the sort of desired effect, or will hedgerows just keep on expanding? Also, you don't, for narrow lanes and sort of more rural roads, you're leaving it until August, beginning of August, before you start cutting. On very narrow country lanes, this can be quite dangerous, and they can be quite encroaching. To have that sort of growth from sort of April, May through till August before it's cut back is quite a long time. And also overhanging branches and tall hedges, whose responsibility is that? Is that Denbighshire County Council, or is it the landowners? Thank you, Chair.
Andy, do you want to start on that? And then,
Okay, yeah.
sorry, Chair, we have to, because we're not sat together, we have to discuss in public who's going to answer each question. So it's a little different to the normal scenario. So.
Sorry, I think there were 3 questions there. In terms of the hedgerows and the overhanging branches, that is largely the landowner's responsibility, unless say for instance with trees, if we've got a tree that's growing out the highway, alongside the highway, within the carriageway, that's clearly the authority's responsibility. You know, hedgerows across rural areas, the landowner's responsibility. Where we have instances where there are issues with health and safety, we will follow those up, and we will contact the relevant party to address those issues. In terms of the reason for cutting the rural areas, obviously we class that's classed as non-principal areas within the report. That is linked to the biodiversity policy to ensure that we are following that approach to encourage everything that we've talked about up to now, and to support that by the council's biodiversity approach. I'm sorry, what was your first question, please? I should have written it down.
My train of thought's gone now. The width of the verge, you tend just to take one sweep, don't you, with your verge cutter, which is only a metre. But sometimes the edges are wider, and you get blackthorn growing, which is more of a hedge material, isn't it? Thank you.
What we've done in the past, our policy is a 1 metre swathe, and to obviously cut the high-rise verges to to maintain them to 100 mil in height. Where we have had issues in previous growing seasons where we've had issues and concerns raised in regard to health and safety. We have looked at all those on an individual basis, and we will address those concerns and take further action if once we've inspected them, we deem that further work is necessary. We don't adopt a back to boundary approach. It's mainly a 1 metre swathe.
Okay, thank you. David? I can see the top of somebody's head there, and I can't see the name. Oh, it's Dave. You're on mute, David. David, you're on next.
There you go. All right.
Hooray.
Yeah, with reference to the chemical, I mean, forgive me, I'm not fully conversant with all the details, but I do know that the glyphosate Roundup, when you're talking about runoff, glyphosate is deactivated on contact with the soil. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So I mean, if that is relevant to the question, I don't think there is danger of runoff from Roundup. Whether that's of any help to anyone, I don't know. Glyphosate, that is.
Thank you, David. Have anybody else want to ask a question? No? Merrick?
Diolch yn fawr, parchus cadeirydd, a diolch am yr adroddiad cynhwysfawr iawn, yn llawn gwybodaeth defnyddiol iawn. Dwi ar yr un trywydd dweud y gwir a Christine. Dwi'n cael un trafferth yn union, pobl yn cerdded ac yn glychu oherwydd bod y tyfiant mor fawr ar ffyrdd bwchi'n gwledig. Da chi wedi sôn am pan bod chi'n torri ond 1 metr, a hynny, os dwi'n cofio'n iawn, yn doriad ariannol rhai blynyddoedd yn ôl wan i arbed pres, ond mae hefyd wedi gweithio at natur yr un ffordd. Da chi yn gadael i ryw goed dyfu, a mae Christine yn gywir yn fanno, a da chi'n tueddu beidio eu torri nhw, ac yn y diwedd maen nhw'n dod dros y ffordd, a da chi'n gyndyn iawn o'i torri nhw achos mae'n costio pres. Ac dwi'n dal i sôn am hyn bob pwyllgor, a dwi'n gwybod wrach os Andy yn medru edrych i mewn i'r broblem yma pyn bach dyfnach. Diolch yn fawr.
Can I just, I'll just start on responding to that, if I may, Chair. Andy may or may not wish to elaborate, but we have a document that specifies our approach to tree management as a council, and again we've worked on this really closely with Countryside Services. In fact, we developed it when Countryside Services was still in my service, but even though they have moved now, we still work really closely with them. But our general approach to trees is we don't do anything with trees unless there is a problem being created by the tree, unless that tree creates a hazard. That is our general high-level approach to tree management. But there is a document on that. It's it's available. We've got a summary document, I think, which is on the website. But yeah, our agreed approach is that we let trees grow to their natural height. And if the tree causes a health and safety hazard, then we will look at it. But I know that's not always necessarily a universally popular approach, but that is the current approach that we take.
Any further questions? Christine?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me coming back in. I would just like to know, with regards to the AOMB, but there doesn't seem to be any difference treating the area of outstanding natural beauty with regard to the rest of the county. Is it because the rest of the county is all sort of biodiverse and actually sort of trying to encourage wildlife into the hedgerows? Or should it be treated differently because it is such an area, an amazing area to be part of? Thank you.
Sorry, Christine, were you talking specifically about verge cutting or weed treatment or anything in particular in relation to
encouraging biodiversity within the AOMB?
Okay.
And sort of trying to encourage wildflowers and sort of hedgerows. I know you've done specific areas, trial areas, for example, in Prestatyn, but you don't seem to expand it out to sort of more rural communities and particular communities within the AOMB. Thank you.
Okay, I might let Andy come in here because we've had quite a big focus on this over the last couple of years, and the approach is expanding, but Andy's more directly involved than I am. So Andy, is that all right if I hand over to you?
Problem, Tony. We've been, as I've mentioned already, we've been working very closely with colleagues in Countryside Services. I think we're largely being led by those officers to determine where the most suitable sites are across the county. The areas that are most rich in nutrients to encourage biodiversity, and also areas that that would encourage the additional species that we want to to obviously introduce. I think we've been working. I think we identified 97 sites initially, of which we put together a pilot of 21, and they range across the county really. There are a number of sites south of the county, Denby, within area, Corwen, Llangollen. There are a number of areas that have been identified. So of the 97, what we're hoping to do is, we had a meeting this week, and we've identified a further 20 sites from that initial list drawn up of the 97 that we're going to proceed with for the forthcoming growing season. And we're looking to expand on it year on year really to be able to encourage biodiversity. What we can't do is obviously take the big bang approach and try and run with all 97 sites all in the same year. It involves considerable investment in equipment, and obviously it involves changing how we currently do things. We've been very fortunate to obtain grant funding to buy further equipment for instance, for grass cutting, for cut and collect. So that, you know, that's a big change in terms of how we currently do things at the moment. We don't tend to adopt that approach, but obviously it involves leaving the grassed areas until August time, and then going in and using specialist equipment to cut that grass. Our current equipment doesn't allow us to do that, but we've been successful in working with colleagues in Countryside to attract that funding and to be able to get that. So in answer to your question, really, we are looking at, you know, on a county-wide basis, but obviously we can't run with all 97 sites all in the same time scale. But it's been very successful to date. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think the answer there is, isn't it? We're looking at where the most appropriate sites are, regardless of where they are, across the whole county, whether that be in the AOMB or otherwise, and we're being guided by Countryside Services in relation to that. I have to say, I think we've made a lot more progress than I thought we would have done on this agenda at this point. So I'm really pleased with it, you know, and Street Scene have really taken this project on and have driven it forward, working with Countryside. So I think it's a good news story. I think we're being seen as leading the way nationally on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I've got Melvin and then Anne, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's not so much a question as just a thank you, I think, to Tony and the service. Excuse me. The yellow salt bins have proved a big success down here. They've certainly helped the biodiversity. You know, obviously the salt isn't leaking everywhere, and we've had lots of really good comments about how they're actually working out. A few other comments about how they're not quite in the right place, but that's another matter, and we can get on with that at another time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mel.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask Andy, will you be giving the councillor a site of where these 92 proposed sites are going to be? And will you be concentrating more on the rural areas rather than residential areas? Because I've noticed in Rhythm, for example, we have a very nice area with seating benches there, and it has been looked at for leaving that grow, you know, for biodiversity and wildflowers and so forth. Yeah, I'm not too keen on them going in residential areas. The residents don't seem to approve of that. Thank you.
Just in terms of that question, we obviously won't be going with all the 97 sites. They're only proposals from colleagues in Countryside Services on which they deem would be the most beneficial sites. I think there will be consultations with all the members for the areas once we finalise the proposals for the forthcoming season. I believe there was a press release issued for the previous pilot, and all the ward members were consulted. So we will follow that course of action again to ensure that all the members are consulted.
Thank you.
I think just to add on to that, Andy, I think it's sometimes there is something here about the public message and about making sure that residents understand what we're trying to do. You know, I think the pilot, as I think I'm right in saying, Andy, has been overwhelmingly positive in terms of the feedback we've had from the public. But we have, of course, had, you know, a small number of people who didn't like it and, you know, opposed it and made complaints, etc. Largely speaking, I think people understand it and accept it once it's been explained to them and they understand why we're doing it. You know, I think some people kind of just think that we're just trying to save money by not cutting things anymore. And, you know, and they think, well, you know, the place looks untidy, you're just cutting costs, etc., etc. But there's more of a story to it than that. So we need to make sure that we do get that message out there so people understand what we're trying to do. We're not trying to save money. It doesn't save money because actually it's more intensive, this work, when we have to do it. You know, we have to do work there less often, but it's much more intensive and, as we said, requires specialist equipment. So we don't save any money by doing this. We're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do for biodiversity. So I genuinely think we need to be quite strong about it and take a stand on it, and not to be apologetic about what we're trying to do, but we do need to explain it to people so people understand why we're doing it. I think that's important.
Okay, thank you. I'll make it my last question. When pavements are full of the green moss, which becomes very, very slippy, particularly in the winter, do you make that a priority to get rid of it?
Andy, do you want to respond to that, Andy?
Yeah. I think what we would need to do, Chair, is obviously any concerns that are raised, we would obviously go out and inspect those areas. Obviously, just treating them with pesticide in terms of moss itself doesn't remove the problem entirely. We would need to follow up with maybe sending out a mechanical sweeper to clear such areas if it's that bad. But obviously we would need to look into these and look at them on a case-by-case basis, really.
All right, thank you very much. No further questions from anybody. I'd just like to say I thought it was a really good report and I thank you for that. It did cover everything I wanted to know. I could go on asking questions about it, but I think we've covered the main parts of it. And really, thanks to your operatives who do a really good job, basically.
Thank
really
you, Chair.
Happy with the work that's been done. I'll go to the recommendations, number 3, and that the committee examine the current policy and make comments and recommendations as deemed appropriate. And that is just been the main discussion, has really been about the way we treat the weeds, really, isn't it? And I suppose that's the most important thing. And like you say, you're keeping your eye on that. Am I right?
Absolutely, Chair. Yeah.
Guidelines.
Yeah, we review our procedures every year and make sure that we're happy with them.
That's good, and it came out quite clear in that. So, does everybody agree to the recommendation that we yearly bring this back? Perhaps I think that's a good idea. Is everybody in favour?
Could I ask, Chair?
Yeah, Joan.
That along with the resolve that we've just made, could I ask that the report goes to the MAGS meetings as well, because the MAGS meetings cover the whole of the county, and I think while we scrutinise an element, it's to me, you see, I'm appreciative of the service within the urban area. and don't have a lot of influence or indeed much to do with the rural areas that might have ongoing problems from seepage, from the meadow sowing and things like this. So it might well be good to put in the resolve, Chair, that we do ask for the report to be presented, not spoke on perhaps, but just a report to be submitted to each MAGS at appropriate times, even if it's only once or perhaps twice a year.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Tony, are you happy with that?
So it was sending an information report to being circulated to the MAGs. Yeah, we won't have an issue with that. That'll be fine.
It's a shame really not to spread this report more widely. It's very good. So I think MAGs would appreciate receiving it. And it would include a lot more of the actual local members then as well. So we're happy to do that, that it's circulated to MAGs within our resolve. Everybody happy with that? Let me show our hands again. Okay. I think in a year, really. Do you? 12 months. Annual report?
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. Okay, thanks very much to the officers to attending, and thanks very much for the report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all.
Hi, Tony.
Thank you. Item 5, or do you want to get a quick cup of tea? Nobody's rushing away, no? Okay, so Rhian?
Yeah, this is your usual work programme report. You will see in Appendix 1 that your next meeting is actually scheduled for the 15th of April. And it was a meeting solely to discuss with the Health Board their plans for services in Denbighshire and the major capital projects in the north of the county, and the work ongoing in Denby and Ruthin as well. Now, I contacted Betsy earlier this week just to check up on this, because I know they are sort of very busy with the vaccination process at the moment, and I did have a response from them yesterday. They do request that we take this item hopefully in May. There are two reasons. They are extremely busy with the vaccination process, but something else which hadn't crossed my mind at the time was that the PWYLLGOR will have started, I think it starts this year on the 22nd of March. So the discussions, because we're in public, may have to be very restricted because of we're in the PWYLLGOR period. So they request now to come to you in May instead of in April.
I'm happy with that.
Everybody else?
Any questions on that? No. Everybody happy?
Forgive me, Chair. What does PWYLLGOR mean?
Well, I think the correct term is the pre-election period. We'll be in the run-up to the Welsh Assembly elections, and I think there is a protocol in place that things which can be politically contentious aren't discussed in that lead-up time. I think it's a period of up to 6 weeks, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
22nd of March onwards. So, but by May, the elections will have been a couple of weeks before our meeting, so you'll be fine. Okay.
Everybody happy with that? Yep.
That means at the moment there are no items for your meeting on the 15th of April, but something may come forward before then, because we have a scrutiny chairs meeting in March, so something may come from there. So what we can do, if you're happy to do it, is to keep that date in the diary for now, in case something crops up, and if needs be, we can always cancel it later. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, keep it open until after the chairs meeting, and then we'll make the decision.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.
In Appendix 2, you got your scrutiny proposal form. And if you have any items you think merit scrutiny, please fill it in, send it to me as soon as you can, then I can ask the chairs to consider it at their meeting in, I think it's on the 11th of March, that meeting. The scrutiny chairs last met on the 21st of January, and at that meeting they had a number of requests to consider, and 2 of them they've asked to come to this committee later on in the year. One of them is an item regarding Denbighshire Voluntary Services Council and the work they've done and helped the council through the pandemic. This was a request actually by Councillor Rhys Thomas. But at the moment, I understand that DVSC haven't got a chief executive. They're in the process of recruiting a new chief executive. So that item has now been scheduled for September this year. Well, hopefully we'll be in a better position with the pandemic, and everything will be clearer as well with DVSC and how we can work together going forwards. The other one is on the effectiveness of the multidisciplinary homelessness and housing related support services. Now, you did have a report on the housing strategy and support services back in December, where mention was made of the reconfiguration of the homelessness and housing related support services in order to deliver in line with the Welsh Government's expectations. So it would be appropriate in the scrutiny chairs and vice chairs group for you to look at this again in 6 months down the line when the new service has been operating. So that's down for November for you. Okay. So you've got a few things there for the future. And I think that's it. The Cabinet Forward Work Programme is in Appendix 3 for you, and then in Appendix 4 is the latest on your recommendations from the last meeting. I don't think I've got anything else to add.
Oh, thanks very much, Rhian. Is there any questions on that? No. So everybody's happy with that? Just show of hands, just so I know you're all happy. Any feedback from committee representatives? Anybody? Christine?
Thank you, Chair. It's just that I attended the Sub-Regional Children's Assessment Care Centre Project Board meeting. It's a bit of a long title, isn't it? This is a collaborative project between Denbighshire, Conway and Betsy to sort of set up a children's sort of unit to provide specialist placements for the young people with significant emotional and behavioural challenges. I think Colwyn Borough Council is the sort of lead sort of authority, and what they hope to achieve is to create a unit. It's sort of proposed between Arias Park and the police HQ in Colwyn Bay or Old Colwyn, and it's for a 4-bedded planned unit, a 2-bedded emergency bed unit and a therapy facility. And attached to it, it will have a multidisciplinary team which will include a clinical psychologist, 2 social workers and 2 therapeutic support workers. I think the aim of the service is to prevent an escalation into care and behavioural challenges and looking after sort of children who have behaviourally challenged. The aim is to remain in the family unit and work within not only with the child but with the family. What else? But the name they're sort of thinking about is to call it Bwthyn Addol, which is a sort of lovely sort of encompassing thing. So yeah, it continues. I think we've got the next meeting is next week, so it's moving forward with the sort of development of this project. Thank you, Chair.
Christine, it sounds really interesting.
It is. It's really interesting, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to sort of represent you all.
Yes, so you enjoyed it and feel that
yeah,
you have an
definitely
impact on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well,
It's an exciting project, and I think for the benefit of the children.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well done, Christine. Thanks for that. We'll have a report from you on that after each meeting, which will be really good. Okay.
Chair, sorry, it's Nicola.
Nicola.
Could I just say, at a point in time, it would be good for us actually to do a presentation on the scheme to the whole committee. Obviously, it's still in development, but there is some exciting things we can show you, which, you know, it's probably a bit too early to scrutinise the model, but we can certainly share with the committee some of the developments as they're occurring. As Christine said, it's a really exciting and fabulous development, which we should all be really proud of.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and I'd look forward to that. But let them get on a little while, yeah, and get used to how they're going to deal with the different authorities and everything. And thank you, Christine. I think that's everything now, other than to wish you all a very nice cup of tea. Well, I have to go and see now whether my car is drivable, whether I've got a garage. Thank you, Eric, for the garage. I'll go round now to the White Bear and see what I can do. Or I might be thumbing a lift home, who knows? But anyway, while you're having your cup of tea, think of me. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Take care. Bye-bye
Bye
now.
all.